Welcome to The Edge. I'm joined by Senator Julie Mayfield of North Carolina, who has introduced legislation in that state, in Raleigh, to ban college and amateur player prop bets. The bets, for instance, how many rebounds over under on how many rebounds a basketball player may get, or over under on how many receptions a football player may get. The NCAA president has called for states to impose these bans because he says that they could lead to an undermining of the integrity of competition and also harassment of athletes. And I know some North Carolina college athletes have said they've been harassed by bettors who are disappointed in their outcome. Senator, going forward, you guys are in the short session, ends in July. Going forward, what was your thought process on introducing this legislation, the need for the legislation?
Yeah, thank you, and thanks for having me. It came out of an article that I read about, I guess it was after March Madness, when UNC player Armando Bacot made comments in the newspaper that he had been harassed. He had received many harassing and derogatory comments from bettors who had lost money on him. And I just thought that's ridiculous. That young man already has enough pressure on him, being the athlete that he is at the school that he's at, and he doesn't need anything else. And that is true for all college athletes. And I should say, I was opposed to online sports betting. I spoke against the bill last year. I voted against the bill. And at the very least, I thought that we should not have included college athletics. And it's, for some of these very reasons. And now we're seeing that it's happening. And I don't know why we would legalize a system that we know is going to cause harassment and sort of mental anguish to our college athletes. I don't know why we would do that.
Senator, there are those, though, on the other side who would say a couple of things. One, I think Representative Sain and some others have said, the universities, when they find out about this harassment, they need to crack down, check social media, check the harassments, check the phone calls. And then you have others who will say, Senator, they'll say, and I'm paraphrasing, sort of generalizing, but they'll say, if you take these off of the regulated menu of bets that state regulators, as you guys have in North Carolina and other states where it's legal, can monitor those bets, and there are monitoring agencies like U.S. Integrity in Nevada who will track harassment. They'll track irregularities in betting amounts, like Toronto Raptors NBA player. It was found out that there were some irregularities in betting. It was found out that he was involved possibly in some over-under prop issues. So what about those who say if you take it off of the menu of regulated bets in a state like North Carolina, they'll just go overseas to unregulated markets where no one can monitor if there's an irregularity, like a North Carolina Tar Heel player who might be manipulating some over-under stuff or being harassed?
Well, I guess I would say this wasn't a problem before we legalized online sports betting in North Carolina. And I think that has been true in the other states that have legalized it. The NCAA has just gotten activated on this last year. And, online sports betting has been, sweeping the country over the last, 2 to 3 years. And so this was not a problem before we legalized it. So I guess that would be my answer to that. And I admit that I don't know how all of those systems work. This is not a market I participate in. So I can't answer about how that would work. But it wasn't a problem before we legalized sports betting. It is now a problem, and it's a problem that I think we need to try to do something about. As to your first question, that the schools should somehow be monitoring this, I'm not sure how a school is going to monitor the private DMs of individual athletes. Now, one of the things that I did not include in the bill that I wanted to was some way for our lottery commission, which manages our online sports betting system, to to hold bettors accountable, to suspend bettors, to prohibit bettors who are shown to have harassed athletes, and just get them out of the system. If this is we have zero tolerance for 8-year-olds in second grade or third grade for their bad behavior. We should have zero tolerance for adults exhibiting bad behavior. Our legislative staff was not clear. They weren't quite sure the mechanism to do that, so we've left that out. I'm still working on that, and we might run that as an amendment to another bill. But if we're not going to ban it, we at least need to have consequences.
Yeah, and you're talking more the individual. I know there's a similar bill in the other chamber, but you're talking mainly individual player props. You're not talking like if the Tar Heels play the Blue Devils in football and over under on how many total points the team scores. You're talking more individual player props, not team player props.
Yes, that was the motivation. Was the focus on the individual players. I mean, again, I would ban it all, period. But particularly any betting on college athletics. So,
going forward, I know you guys have a short session into the summer. Any sense on it hasn't been heard in committee yet? Any sense on when it would be heard in committee and what kind of success you may have with the bill, Senator?
I would not anticipate either the House or Senate bill moving forward in any way, really. This is what we're proposing is not what the leadership wants to do. Now, we do expect a bill that would tweak the statute that we passed last year on online sports betting. I think it has to do with the cost of the license for horse racing or something else. I don't know. But we are anticipating that there will be a bill on this other issue, which would then, allow us to prepare and run some, other amendments, like on prop betting and either banning it or creating consequences for people who engage in bad behavior.
And you see that's where it's going this session. Next session, would you come back and revisit it, or are you waiting to see how it sort of shakes out this session?
I mean, the truth of the way the North Carolina legislature works is that if the majority party doesn't want it, it's not going to happen. I have not gotten any indication that the majority party is at all interested in cutting back the statute that they passed last year, that they're not really interested in responding to the concerns that are being heard from athletes and coaches all around the country. So, maybe things will get so bad, maybe something particular will happen that will prompt the majority to change their position on that. But right now, we're not hearing any. I'm not hearing anything that would make me believe that we will actually do this. I think us, Representative Marsha Morey in the House, and myself introducing this bill or these bills, it's really to put the question out there in the public and to respond to the concerns that we've heard. Again, not just from North Carolina athletes, but there are coaches all across this country at major schools, including the football coach at Clemson and other places that have expressed a lot of concern about this. And there are a number of states now who are going back and amending their I think most of the way it's happened is that the gaming commissions have just passed rules to ban it. And I honestly don't know if our lottery commission has that authority. I have asked that question. But that's, so there might be another way for it to get done if the harassment continues, and if, I would say some leading coaches and other players in North Carolina start expressing concern about it.
That's what I was going to ask you, Senator. Is there another way to approach it? Because I know in some states, in Louisiana, for instance, the Gaming Control Board has issued a letter saying that they're going to, on August 1st, that they're going to ban. So, Senator, I really appreciate you being with us today and shedding light on what's going on in North Carolina. Do you have any further thoughts on where sports betting is in the state? I know March 11, before the ACC and NC2A tourneys, you guys launched it. We're going into the summer now. We're headed into football season in the fall. Any further thoughts on sports betting in general or gaming in general? How you see it shaping up, coming down the pike?
Yeah, well, I think the data that we got back after March Madness was that we brought in a whole lot more money than we had planned to, than we thought we would. Now that's just a month, and it's a really big month for North Carolina, especially with NC State going as far as they did. So, I think we don't know what that's going to look like normalized over the year. And, I'm aware that a lot of states don't actually sort of reap the revenues that they thought they were going to when they first did this. And so I think we'll have to wait and see. Yeah.
That makes sense. Senator Julie Mayfield, thank you so much for being with me today. I really appreciate you talking about what's happening in North Carolina and how it may shape up, especially with player props. It's a hot issue right now. I know a lot of states are embracing it and trying to figure out what to do with it. And it sounds like you guys are on the vanguard, on the front edge of trying to get a handle on it. Thank you.
Trying to. Yeah. Thank you.
I'm Larry Henry at Gambling.com. Thank you for joining us on The Edge.